an interesting qualifying for the Miami Grand Prix, and I'm not sure what to make of it still. I really want to go scorched earth Mercedes, but I'm not sure this is the time. Not for this qualifying session, because there's so many different variables: tyre temps, thermal deck, tyre wear, people going on mediums and going on soft. Lando not sure whether medium or the soft compound, again an extenuation, an extending even of a plot that he struggled with in the earlier session, right? No one really knew what was going on. People improving and not improving from session to session. The thermals being different again from session to session as far as air and track temps, and people didn't really know what was going on. But the one common theme in and of all this was that Mercedes knew less than most, because they struggled in Q3. They were on the mediums, thinking that meant that they were going to go faster. Most people, by the way, don't believe the hype that you're seeing on Twitter. Between Q2 and Q3, of course, tyre temps were changing, air temps, track temps too. But what that meant is that all but two of the drivers went quicker between Q2 and Q3. Those two drivers were Yuki Tsunoda and none other than Lewis Hamilton. At the time, I said that I thought it was a gamble worth playing from Mercedes to put the yellow medium compound tyres on, but in retrospect, with the benefit of a bit of hindsight, since Lewis didn't manage to go quicker, I'm not sure that was the bloody play. They're struggling yet and still with the handling dynamic. They've brought the floor upgrade, but I'm not necessarily seeing much material upside here. Mercedes are in exactly the same place that they have been season to date, in that they do not know. Forgive them, Lord, for they know not what they do. Toto yet again strikes the figure of a boy who cried wolf, doing one of these, shrugging his shoulders. He has no idea where the performance is going. Genuinely now, Mercedes and Colt LH need to recalibrate for their expectations, because 9th and 10th is probably where they should be. The only bods in that Q3 session that Russell and Lewis should expect to beat were Yuki Tsunoda and Nico Hülkenberg. Oh, how the mighty have fallen then. Oh, the humanity. This is a far cry from the glory days 2014 to 2020, when Mercedes would just rock up and win. That was indeed their expectations. Many have said that Lewis Hamilton and Inshallah was the strategy. No strategy nuance, no Hannah Schmidt. Lewis will dig us out of a hole each and every single time. And when you undergo that extensive period of success, it's then a transition period when it flips 180. How do you then climb your way out of a hole, especially when you're not used to climbing out of holes? If you are Toto, the boy who cried wolf, if you are a Lewis Hamilton or a George Russell, what are the actionable steps that you take to reverse for that? And these are rhetorical questions, because I don't have the answers. I don't know the answers. Do you go and appoint Adrian Newey? That will, of course, have a massive cost and a massive lead time. Does that even get anything done if you're Mercedes before 2026? I don't know. Do you try and get in Andrea Kimi Antonelli or Max Verstappen? Will that solve for it? Is that the panacea that the boys and girls at Brackley and Brixworth are seeking? I don't know. I'm not sure. Do they need to have a look internally? Potentially Toto Wolff, does he need to go? I'm not sure that would solve it either. Many people, Toto Wolff fundamentalists and Mercedes fans alike, would argue that getting rid of Toto, the 33% owner, the man who was pioneer, the man upon whose shoulders Mercedes rose in terms of their marketing and advertising value exponentially over the last 10 years, that getting rid of that man would indeed set Mercedes backwards. So what's the plan then? What is the plan? And I think, much to the discontent, to the disenfranchisement of F1 fans around the world, Mercedes do not have a clue. Remember, again, for the avoidance of that, it's not the losing. Sports comes with losing. Every dynasty, we know this, comes to an end at some point. So it's a circle of life, right? But how do we handle that in real time? This is the point at which many F1 fans, myself included, are just confused. It is confusing. They cut confusing figures. Show us an action plan, Toto. Don't just come in front of the camera and say, well, I don't know, it's not good enough. I don't know. These low-hanging tropes and leadership cliches each and every single time. It's not good enough. And people are going to keep holding Mercedes to account, especially when in stark contrast, because F1 is a zero-sum game. In stark contrast to the other key protagonists, Red Bull are not slowing down. Max Verstappen at 26, nearly 27 years old, does not make mistakes, hardly ever. We saw one in the sprint shootout qualifying for, and it was ridiculous, and even then he still put it on pole, didn't he? Just goes to show the level at which this chap is operating. Scuderia Ferrari are taking on a step. McLaren too. Everybody's moving forward. Aston Martin didn't have a good go of it, but broadly in long form, they too are moving. Aston Martin, by the way, and McLaren are customer teams of Mercedes. They used to use the same bloody wind tunnel. They still use the same gearbox and rear suspension, for Pete's sake. So how are those guys cracking on? You'll remember that the age-old trope, one of the oft-repeated things that you will hear in F1 is that you can't win anything as a customer team, because the works team aren't going to give you the equipment requisite to win a championship. Why would they? Why would they? They're sabotaging their own hopes. Indeed, Mercedes are incentivised to give Aston Martin and McLaren as customer teams. Williams too, lesser machinery. So with that in mind, how are Aston Martin and McLaren still outstripping, using the same machinery, same rear suspension, same gearbox, same engine as Mercedes? How are those guys outstripping Mercedes? I have no clue. I don't understand visual. That just makes no sense to me. Genuinely, at this point, my mind boggles. Toto Wolff needs to have some very difficult conversations with both himself and the board at Daimler IG. These are going to happen this year because they're going to want to hold him to account. How are we having to suffer the embarrassment of being beat handily with frequency by customer teams in Lewis Hamilton's last season, for Pete's sake? You heard me having a chat with Windsor the other day talking about they should be celebrating Lewis's final season with their performance, their excellence. This season should hark back to the glory days, but all we're seeing is underperformance, for Pete's sake. That's all we've seen from Mercedes this year, and I don't think it's good enough, I will be honest with you. As all of the other teams kick on and make progress, realise that they're barking up the right design philosophy tree. Incremental gains from each and every single one of them. You can see the green shoots in McLaren. Again, okay, so they messed up the compound stuff and Lando wasn't quite right, but you see them competing with the likes of Ferrari, and in time, in short order, you can understand that they may be able to compete with the bulls that are red. And how's that going to look on Toto and Elliott and James Allison and Lewis and George? They have to hang their heads in shame, for Pete's sake. What are we doing? I just don't understand. This isn't quite scorched earth, Cameron, but nearly. They've almost hammered me into submission. This is too much failure for my shoulders to bear the burden of. I'm just disappointed at this stage. When we saw Lewis Hamilton earlier on the back of the sprint shootout, he's reconciled himself with failure. 7-time champ, by the way. talking about how much fun it was to have some hard racing with none other than Kevin Magnussen in a horse, for Pete's sake. That's where Lewis Hamilton is. That made him happy. The ability to be able to fight a horse. Oh, how the mighty have fallen. Genuinely, the mind boggles. If you rewind to 2021, had you told me this was going to be my reality, Mercedes and Lewis Hamilton's reality, as soon as 2024, I would have told you, I would have asked you what you were smoking. I would have told you that you're bat-ish crazy. But this is what sports is, right? And here we are. A couple of other plot lines I will touch on before I destroy Mercedes too much. Charles Leclerc gets it done. I am keen to see what Charles Leclerc has for Max Verstappen off the line tomorrow. For once, Charles, I want to see you get your elbows out. Lest we forget, in 2022, Charles Leclerc did show signs of being able to defend to one Max Verstappen in a car that he liked, with a handling dynamic that he liked. Charles Leclerc, the Monegasque, then needs to remember who he was in 2021. He needs to offer some sort of fight and resistance to Max Verstappen, because I haven't seen that in a while from the Monegasque. And that's not to say that he doesn't have it deep within him. Normally when he hits adversity, he wakes up and remembers who he is, and I need to see that from him in the race tomorrow. Ideally, that would look like a brilliant start and putting one at the inside of Max Verstappen into turn one. Up the inside, Charles Leclerc, not around the outside. Lest we forget, this is Max Verstappen and it's damn near impossible to overtake him anywhere, let alone around the outside. The inside is where you go, sir. Be aggressive, race hard. Go nose to nose with your arch rival Max Verstappen, lest he get into that habit, that understanding, that comfort zone where he knows he's got you beat. I think that's where he is already, Max. Comfortable around Charles. Know what he's going to do, and I know what he's prepared not to do, and I can walk that line easy. That's where Max Verstappen will be. Hence his shock yesterday when he bloody put it on pole with that massive oversteer, right? It's techie in the world of F1, you know. It really is techie. I think we have a problem at the moment. We have a stakes problem. We have a spectacle problem. Ergo, we have a viewership problem. If this continues, this level of monotony, this level of Max Verstappen dominance continues between now and the end of the season, this is what the viewership graph is going to look like, right? It's going to do one of these. It's going to drop like a stone. Drive to Survivation promised blood and guts, gangbusters 2021 each and every single year. Those guys are dialing out, cancelling Sky Sports subscriptions by the second. This guy, we've had conversations that I might have to do the same in short order. £91. We have a problem, Houston. We do have a problem. People aren't going to be watching F1 anymore because there aren't enough reasons why. And that's why each and every single time you hear me come on and I'm talking about Charles Leclerc and I'm pissed off at Mercedes, because these are the guys that need to raise their game and offer some sort of friction and challenge with a view to make F1 great again. That's the only reason why I say that. But who's going to do it? These guys need to get out in front of these challenges and apply some common sense, solve for them in real time. This is exactly what it looks like Toto the boy who cried wolf cannot do. I think our final hope, the last Mohican of hopium, optimism, for fans of competitive racing, for fans of a competitive one around F1 around the world. AJ Newey signing for Ferrari, eh? We will hear over the next couple of months. By the way, conversations have already been had between Newey and Frederick Vasseur in London this weekend past. That doesn't mean to say that the outcome is guaranteed. You guys have heard already my theories on his holiday period. I think he needed to toe the party line, did Adrian Newey, for a little bit. Come out and make nice, shake hands and take pictures, hold and kiss some Christian Horner babies. You understand what I'm saying with that? Make sure the optics are good. No destabilization here to be seed. And then there is no Adrian Newey garden leave, no non-compete clause. Go away for a little bit, make nice, pretend like you're on holiday, and then go and sign your contract with Ferrari. That, ladies and gents, I think is the last hope, the last source of competitive racing, the hope for the medium to short term, the next 2 to 3 years, that Adrian Newey pens a contract with Scuderia Ferrari, and as of the 2025 season joins Messrs Hamilton, Verstappen and Leclerc. That's the last hope. But I digress. No further questions, Your Honour.